Hey ladies, it's Judy Weber here, and I'm so excited to bring you this very special episode of Livy Girl Radio. And what makes it extra special, besides the fact that I'm interviewing a friend, is that it's a rare time when my friend is a male. And so I get to speak today with Carl Carter, who is the founder and executive director of Beverly Carter Foundation. So Carl, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Judy. I'm honored.
Well, thank you. We are as well to have you along because, you know, you're a sponsor, not a sponsor. I guess what's the technical word? How would we describe? You are our featured charity at our upcoming She's Unstoppable Live inaugural conference for real estate women. And so excited to have you and hear your message on stage. So I wanted to have you here to kind of give a little preview for our listeners. All right? That sound
yes,
good?
Thank you. And we can't thank you enough for allowing us to be the featured charity. I mean, it's such an incredible honor. And I'm so thankful today to have this opportunity to share my heart and what we're trying to do with the foundation.
Well, great. Well, let's start there. Can you briefly tell those of us that may not know your mom's story and where this foundation came from?
Absolutely. And I'll give a little disclaimer that I get a little passionate about it. So you'll keep me within the lines there. But my mom was a beautiful, beautiful realtor. And in the fall of 2014, she started getting phone calls, texts, and emails from a husband and wife. And their story was that, like so many of the deals that she had done before, they were seeking to purchase a home. And with their story, they were moving in from out of state. They were relocating due to work. They were cash buyers. And as mom continued to interact with them through those phone calls and through the text and the emails, she had no idea that couple on the other side of that transaction, they were none of those things. They weren't from out of state. They were just from across town. The phone number that she was interacting with, they were using a smartphone app to disguise their true number. They had a spoof number that provided an area code to indicate that they were an out of state, kind of in that out of state profile that you might think of. And I tell you, how I think of it now is kind of the reverse of what we're all experiencing daily as realtors, is that it's so frustrating because we're getting all these local calls, or they certainly appear to be local when they're actually people soliciting. So pretty frustrating. But my sweet mom, she was so committed to serving those clients, and she had talked up their scenario with other agents in her office. And, my dad was very well aware of the situation and all the hard work that she was putting into finding them a home. And, and that really kind of points to some of the things that we talk about in the foundation, of things that you do right? People know what you're doing, what you're working on, where you're going. But, through the whole thing, and part of that deception, and we all have to remember that anyone can grab any phone number with technology resources today. Anyone with about 60 seconds of time can create a fictitious email account, with any kind of name they would like. And my mom certainly didn't have processes in place to really get at the core of screening who she was working with. My mom had no idea that the husband of this husband and wife was a 7-time felon. But I'll tell you this, when she agreed to show them that property on September 25th, we know that there was some sort of a red flag in mom's head, because she did something in the moment when that husband called to ask her if he could see that property. There was a little bit of hesitation because she made up a company policy right on the spot. She apologized and she said, I'm so sorry, but company policy prohibits me from showing property alone in a rural area. And, and how many of us could really have the foresight to consider, well, what happens if that husband hands the phone to the wife and the wife says, hey girl, so sorry, I'm going to be meeting you guys there. I'm going to come straight from work. Is that okay? Would your company be cool with that? And I'll speak for myself and what I think that many of us would have made the same decision that Beverly did. Just because certainly with working with this young couple, talking to both of them, it certainly doesn't fit kind of that mindset of, you know, what does a bad guy look like? What does a scary situation look like? So my precious mom, she set the appointment. It was a bank-owned property that they had scouted. Mom had no idea that they chose that home for a reason. Mm-hmm. It was vacant, been bank-owned, foreclosed property, sitting, had issues of squatters in the past. And Mom knew all of these things, and that's probably contributed to her hesitation to show the property, because she knew, well, one, why would you want to move out of state and, you know, be interested in a property, you know, that needs such TLC? So Mom set that appointment that day for 6 p.m., knowing that, you know, there were no utilities. We need to get in to view the property before it gets dark. And when my mom got to that property, she was met by the husband, and he had a lot of excuses. And soon enough, my mom started getting texts from the wife that echoed those excuses and those apologies, that the wife got caught up at work and she would be unable to join them. But what they did, and it may be the only smart thing that they did throughout the whole process, is that they, in their apologies, they asked my mom, as she toured the property with the husband, to have her phone handy and to take photos and text them to the wife, because there weren't very many photos online, and those that were there weren't very good quality. So it was smart, because it kept the agent in the game, and it kept the agent distracted, unfortunately. I'll tell you, probably one of the eeriest things I've ever seen in my life was at the conclusion of the trial, we got my mom's phone back. It had been found in the home of these bad people. And the last 10 photos on my mom's camera roll were of the interior of that home that she was showing that day. And, you know, as my mom turned from taking that last photograph of a second story, you know, bedroom, she was met with a taser in her side and a roll of lime green duct tape. And I'll be honest with you, even telling you this right now, my friend, it doesn't seem real. Mm. And it happened to me, it happened to my sweet mom.
I'm so sorry, Carl.
She's taken from us. Oh, thank you. Emotional, I'm sorry. But you know, Judy, why we do this and why we work so hard with the foundation is because what happened to her truly could happen to other people. Because when those bad guys, the husband specifically, when he was questioned, why Beverly? His response multiple times was that she was a rich broker that worked alone. And I'll tell you, you know, it applies to so many of us, whether we have money in our bank account or not. It's because within this industry, there is a public perception of wealth. And, you know, certainly that whole fake it till you make it mentality too, you know, there are a lot of factors that lead to people, the public, thinking that we are just insanely successful. But I'll tell you also, you know, the whole intent of going after this rich lady was that they wanted to hold her for ransom, and they wanted to get all of this money from my dad, this perceived money. And these bad guys, they never thought through, of course, the plan. All they just considered is that it was brilliant and they would never get caught. And you know, when it didn't go as they thought that it would, or as smoothly as it would, they made this gigantic leap to go from kidnapping for ransom to we need to end her life. And you know, there are parts of the story that we'll share at She's Unstoppable Live, but you know, in the end, like, it's hard for me, not only because I lost my mom, but to see that these people are capable of doing such things. You know, even whenever they decided, well, we can't get the ransom and we're going to end this woman's life. they took everything of value from my mom. And, you know, we've heard the horror stories of agents that have been found themselves in tight spots, and either they've had, you know, some of their personal things stolen or things stolen from open houses. But so, you know, from those kind of stories and experiences, we know, and we kind of go like, well, it makes sense that they would take Beverly's jewelry. But they also took, I mean, articles of my mom's clothing too. I mean, my mom's shirt was found hanging in the closet of the wife. I mean, and so it's just knowing that this can happen. The threat is real. We have to remain diligent about it. Is so vital. And I tell you, it's uncomfortable to talk about safety. It's uncomfortable to hear stories about what happened to people like my mom. But that really has been a driver for me in creating this nonprofit in her name. Mm-hmm. Because, you know, I can say, I pray that this conference that you're hosting, and I'm so honored to be a part of it, I pray that this is the first one that I can say that I walked away from it and every lady in attendance just raised her hand and said, I have never felt vulnerable or victimized in my time in real estate. But I'll say it would be the first time, because at the conclusion of every time I have an opportunity to share my mom's story, there is at least, there's at least one lady. There's at least one lady that will come up to me and share her story. Mm-hmm. And I can't even do any of it justice. You ladies know what you deal with, from gross guys on the internet to, you know, a handsy guy that makes you feel uncomfortable during showings. I've had agents confide in me that they were raped while showing properties. And it's a big responsibility. And I'll tell you this, and I think it's very important, is that I do not think I would honor my mom with what we do by spreading a message of fear and paranoia, because that's not what this is. Mm. This is a son that misses his mom and just wants to make sure that all the other real estate professionals out there just get home safely to their families. So
I love that. And Carl, obviously, I mean, your story hits home. Here I am, an agent of 10 plus years, and I can tell you, I had sat open houses and felt very uncomfortable on more than one occasion. And by God's grace, it wasn't my time to go through some of those horrendous things. But yes, you're absolutely vulnerable. So I love that what the foundation does is it attacks the issue in, like you say, a very proactive way. I'm not going to be a victim. I want to kind of help myself as best I can. So it's like the best practices in the front end and also the self-defense in the back end. So for example, can you help us? What's one tip that, as you're sharing your story, that you've gotten out there, that your reaction that you've gotten is the ladies are like, wow, I never thought of that. You know, kind of what can we do? Kind of the best tip to self-protect, if you will.
Well, I have a lot. So I'll give you, if you don't mind, I'll just give you a couple quickly.
Sure.
I get fired up about this. Okay, so first things first, that I didn't say when I was telling you a bit about my mom's story, is that I think it's important for all of us to look at mom's story and we say, wow, that's horrible. But we also have to acknowledge that it was preventable. And there were decisions that my mom made just because she didn't have the total picture. So if there's anything that we can just spend a little bit of time on, is brainstorming that how can I best screen my clients? And what are those best practices? You know, we hear a lot of the anecdotal stuff about meeting in a public place, and that it's used a lot for good reason. But when you hear the success stories out there of the agents that have their lender friends that aren't just like that trusted resource that gets the job done quick, but also that person that's like, that you can call and be like, hey girl or guy, these folks are new. They say, you know, they need to get, you know, pre-approved. and let that person know and build that relationship upon a place of, hey, you're a safety ally too. So that's neat. Now, something that I do that is, we should, you know what, I should demonstrate, have a demonstration at the conference. But I have started because as an agent, I feel most vulnerable when I am at an open house. And so one thing that I've done in my business is I was seeing all these ads for cloud cameras. And I was like, okay, I'm intrigued. How could I implement something like that in my business? And so what I do now is I use an Amazon Cloud Cam, and I specifically use it when it's just impossible to get someone else there with me. Yes, it's always going to be great to have one at your, someone at your open house. But what that particular camera does is that I position it to where it's right with my sign-in sheet. I try to get my sign-in sheet personally as close to the front door as I can. I don't want to have to wait for them to come to the kitchen. But it drives accountability, A, because it's a video, 2, it's cloud-based. So that video footage is going up immediately, so they know if they're coming in there with malintent, they want to go in there and get the prescription drugs, whatever it may be, they're on camera. A couple of other things that are I like to say, sometimes we can get better kind of traction with some of these safety resources by also having good practical business purpose too. One thing I love about this camera is that, A, I can go back and watch the footage, or at least listen to the footage, and say, how am I interacting with a brand new lead that just walked through the door? How can I better the things that I'm saying instead of, I'm from Arkansas, so things down here might be like, howdy, y'all. Maybe that's not the best approach, or maybe it is. And then, what does that look like? So it's giving me a good opportunity to see myself, even if it is a little uncomfortable seeing ourselves on camera sometimes. Another cool thing is that it has two-way communication. So if my wife is unable to come sit with me in an open house, she can come over that camera and speak to me. And it doesn't have to be like hey, honey, this is your wife, I'm cooking dinner. It doesn't have to be like that. It can be her coming over and, I hate to use the word pretend, but she can be my assistant. And she's calling about, files that I have at the office and verifying what time I'll be back at the office. And so, although my career in real estate isn't one that isn't quite big enough that I have an assistant yet, but I can certainly, back to that, fake it till you make it. And it also drives that accountability, because these people are like, whoa, this dude is like really up on tech. I mean, he has surround sound assistant coming in, and so it makes me look super fancy and helps drive accountability and keep it safe.
Yes, I love that. Double
Isn't that cool?
there. I love it. Well, how much is this camera?
Cool.
I'm not at all techie, so.
Oh my gosh. So it's very inexpensive. I paid $120 for it. And, I'll admit it was a little clunky, like for me personally, the first couple of times. And there are things we have to consider about, different parts of the country. If we have to disclose there's a video camera, and I have some fun ideas for signs that I've used. But yeah, I mean, you get in your groove, and then it just becomes, it's just standard. I just have my little bag, my open house bag. I know that I'm going to do that. I'm going to grab some bottled waters, and I'm going to grab balloons, and I've got a process, and I rock it out.
That's right. I love it. Okay. So let's talk about screening just one more moment. Okay. So in that example, when you're taking buyers out, so if it's a cash buyer, what now do you suggest and recommend as far as best practices for screening before you meet these people, at a home to show?
Yeah. So this is one of the toughest things. And, and it points back to my mom's situation too, because, they thought through that. They're like, well, we can get past this screening bit. And I'll admit, when I talk to agents, and even for myself in my business, it's an awkward conversation to say, hey, I know you're a cash buyer, but I kind of need you to prove it, and asking for those proof of funds. So one thing that we've worked on, and I definitely need to share it with you and get your thoughts on it, is, we work with scripting in so many of our, in refining and fine tuning the ways that we say things and ask for things in this business. And so, in some scripting that we've developed for working with cash buyers, we very much focus on protecting kind of the interest of the seller, and that it's at the seller's request. And it really doesn't make you the bad guy. It doesn't make the cash buyer necessarily feel like, okay, do you think I'm an ex-murderer? I'm about to give you a lot of money. So it kind of gets away from that weirdness, because I'll be honest, I'm Mr. like safety at the forefront all the time, but I'm also very real about the fact that if we get into this whole, like, when we're talking to new clients and we're in this whole, like, hey, I'm going to need you to show ID because I think that, it's for my safety. What they hear us say is, you don't trust me. I think you're going to kill, I think you're going to kill me. I think you're going to. Yeah, so there are just better ways that we can say it and frame it about better serving them and things being at seller's request, or certainly at the protection of the seller.
Right, right. And I love that, because one of the things that we teach our ladies in the coaching program is that things that you have to say that may feel uncomfortable, whether it's handling a certain objection or even in the situation we just described, when you say it in a matter-of-fact way, and with a smile, oh, I hope you understand, this is what our seller expects, and I think you can appreciate why, they're going to be opening their home and blah, blah, blah. So I think that's good. And I think a lot of it is we make things as difficult as we make them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that idea in our mind, a conversation can go easier or more difficult based upon our confidence and authority with which we speak. So I'd be happy to look at the scripting that you have there. I love to help.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. I will definitely take you up on that.
Well, excellent. Let's talk for a moment about self-defense. Do you get involved in training that aspect of things, handling situations when crazy things happen?
Yeah, so simply put, I don't. I and the foundation, we're very much, our focus is on prevention. We fully recognize, though, that sometimes you could do everything right and you'll find yourself in a situation. But there's none of us that are involved in our 30 or so folks with the foundation that really, or most of us, I should say, don't really feel like that's our wheelhouse of expertise. We do have a retired NYPD as a board member, and so when he presents for the foundation, he gives some basic self-defense. So I'll tell you though, some of the best sessions I've ever had with agents is for me to tell my mother's story, and then either have law enforcement or someone in self-defense come in and just share that, okay, you've done everything right, and then let's just look at a few moves to get you out of the situation so you can run like hell.
Yes, indeed. Because I'm not strong. I need some self-defense, really. It's one of those things, like, I need to exercise it. I've been saying that for a year plus and I haven't. So it's one of those things where we know we need, this training. So, okay. So the preventative training that you provide, where can we go to get that? I mean, is there on your website, could we see that, or is it more done at the local level?
Yeah, so what we do is we do have things on our website, which is beverlycarterfoundation.org. There are some materials there. What we do also, though, is that we work with individual boards on refining or building things that aren't even there. So, for example, something that we love to do is working either with a brokerage or a board or association, whatever level needs it, to ensure that there's a safety policy in effect. And the reason why we haven't seen the National Association of Realtors come out with this safety policy that's kind of a one-size-fits-all is because that would be inappropriate. Because, so many, and especially these days, brokerages are functioning so differently than they have in the past. So what we do is we work with them for what their brokerage looks like, for the frequency of their agents that are actually coming into the brick and mortar, or if at all, kind of identifying all the best practices that we've identified with working with other agencies across the country and fine-tuning it. One thing that I'm particularly passionate about is that, and I've actually built a new one of our course offerings on it, is the importance of having a safety committee at every level that will actually participate. So even like if there's a brokerage, that, even if it's a small one, it's like, well, we only have 12 agents. I'm like, well, do you think we can get 2 or 3 of them to be on the safety committee? And you would be surprised at just having a little committee. And, we have to rein them in. We set expectations, be like, guys, nobody wants to hear the safety spiel for 20 minutes in every sales meeting, like keep it in check. But empowering people and giving them a voice and giving them an ownership in the safety of those that they work with, it's really, really neat. I was a little skeptical at first, I'll admit, because I was like, okay, what's the benefit of every brokerage in town, having a safety committee? And then you see it come to life, and you see how creative people get when they can actually own something.
Yes.
And it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing that. I love working with those groups. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And, this whole topic is, as you said earlier, something that we really don't like to think about. It's something that it's just easier to kind of push to the side. But I so applaud you and even beginning this foundation, because you're doing amazing work and helping literally save lives. So I thank you. And I'm sure everybody listening is right now nodding their head saying, heck yeah, thank you, Carl. And God bless your mom, and I'm so sorry that happened, obviously, but you're doing very, very good things. And I know she's looking down, very proud of you and all the people that are helping. So before we go, I just want to plug again that you are going to be speaking at She's Unstoppable Live, April 9th and 10th. And if you haven't bought your tickets, you've got to go to she'sunstoppablelive.com and get your tickets. They're selling very, very quickly. We're going to sell out soon, I have no doubt. But Carl, any little secret that you're going to be revealing there, or any other little shout out that you want to give now? This is going to probably be released, this podcast, about a month before the event. So anything that you care to share?
So, one thing that I think we should do, and I'm just like off the top of my head, since we've talked about it in this, how about I bring one of those cameras and we give it away at the event? I think that'd be really great.
Wow.
And I have everything that I've talked about on this. I have it kind of in a one-pager for how to take that and implement that in your open house strategy. So let's definitely plan to do that. And and then, from there, I think that it'll be a really good time for after I speak, for us to, the beauty of this being a 2-day conference is that we will have so much time as we network to just really lift each other up and to share best practices and to brainstorm situations. I'm thrilled about it. Really thrilled.
Excellent. I know. It's going to be so great. These 2 days are going to go like a wedding reception, like began and then it's over. And you're looking around like, what? Didn't we just get here? But Carl, thank you so much for your time this Friday afternoon. Have a wonderful weekend. And I can't wait to actually meet you in April.
Oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait.
All right. Thank you, hon. Ladies, we will see you next time.
You.
Take good care.